On today's Locked On Utes, we're going to be discussing all the latest reports coming out from Utah's spring ball practice and media availability on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcasts. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. You guys can interact with us in the YouTube comments as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Dante Guardi of UteZone.com. And we are going to dive into everything that happened with spring ball. But Dante, I first wanted to start with just talking about everything that happened to the University of Utah women's basketball team. It was something by the time the story broke, I wasn't able to cover it on yesterday's show. So it's something we have to start with here. As Lynn Roberts said in her post-game press conference, the team experienced several instances of some kind of racial hate crimes toward their program. And it was just, this is a quote from her, it was incredibly upsetting for all of us. And as I said in the statement I put out earlier today, my thoughts and prayers go out to all the players and teams, of course. And it's hard when you not to read something like this, just to feel so disgusted by where this continues to happen in our society. I think the biggest thing that frustrates me is March Madness is supposed to be a memory that lasts a lifetime for these players. It's supposed to be something incredibly positive that they look back on, something that is, when you think of, it's a joyous experience that you're supposed to have with your teammates. Like I said, memories that last a lifetime. And instead it will be a memory that lasts, but not one in a positive manner, but one that is a haunting manner because of what these players and everyone who was with the team at the University of Utah was forced to experience there. It's incredibly disgusting. Once again, my thoughts and prayers go out to all the players, as all of us, as everyone's has. And I just hate that this happened to them. The fact that we even have to talk about this is ridiculous. But as I said too, like, this is supposed to be one of the highlights of these players, some college careers, and in many of them, one of the best memories of their life. And now it's tainted by this, which is incredibly disgusting once again. And I just once again, all the thoughts and prayers go out to the players and their families for having to experience all of this. And I'm glad that they were able to then relocate and that the NCAA stepped in and were able to help provide a safer environment. I wish they would have been put closer in the first place to Spokane. I know that's been a hot topic and debate as well, but just a really disgusting situation that's played out. And I'm glad that everyone is okay, but something that we have to make sure we just continue to fight and combat, because it's never acceptable for this to continue to happen. And it's just sad that we have to talk about this yet again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, JT. It's pretty disgusting, and you can't really help but put yourself in the player's shoes and imagine if you were about to play in the biggest game of your career, and it was supposed to be a memory that's going to last a lifetime, like you said, and that's the type of reception that you get. It's pretty disturbing and not a great look for March Madness, and it's a shame for all the girls that had to deal with that. So I don't really have much else to add, but you said everything pretty well.
Yeah, once again, our thoughts and prayers go out to all the players and their families in the university as they step in, and the authorities as well, as they look to figure out this situation. Now, moving on from that, do want to talk about spring ball today. A lot of things happened up on the hill, and let's start first with some of Coach Whittingham's comments. First, he was just asked, and this comes to us from the Utah Athletics website, he was asked just how the team looked today. He said it was a good day. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was our best practice out of the 7 we have had. You expect that and hope that as you go through this progression, that you hope to get better and execution your assignments. And he said it was just an excellent day overall. And this is something I even talked about when previewing this week, Dante, is I felt like very first week install, even last week, you're really starting to hit and put on the pads and all of that stuff more. Felt like this would be the best we've seen of Utah yet, and would still really start to see some of the young guys and transfers finding a groove, right? We heard over the scrimmage over the weekend what kind of a weekend that Zipper was able to have, making a couple of really nice plays in the scrimmage. And Keenan Johnson's been a guy who's already made a number of highlight plays. That's continued today as well. So I think it's really encouraging that this team continues to fall in a strong trajectory, as they don't have a ton of key guys to replace, but they do have a few key ones. And it's nice to see that those guys are fitting in, and they've only been with the team for a few weeks now.
Yeah, you mentioned Dadrian Zipper. I remember him coming out of high school and being really impressed by his speed and his ability to win on the outside. So to see him coming along is good to hear. And like you said, you're at the 7th practice now, and they said this was the best one. That doesn't really say a whole lot, in my opinion. I actually think that's just where you want to be. That simply just means that Utah's on track. And like Whit said, that's where you want to be at this point in time. So it's just good to hear that Utah's on track. And it's nice to hear that some of these guys that are coming off injury are making plays as well. I heard Brant Keithy got some work today and did well. And obviously Cam is back and on track and playing better and progressing throughout the whole process of missing the entirety of last season. So it's good to hear some familiar faces are back. And I'm just really excited to hear what else is to come.
Yeah, and I think one of the really exciting things is we're all really curious about the state of the secondary, and Coach Whittingham shed some light on that. And I want to talk about the guys he named in a second as who would be the potential starters at this moment. But first, diving into a little bit more about one guy he highlighted in particular is Keenan Johnson. It feels like every week we've been hearing about Keenan Johnson. Coach Whittingham on him today said he's been making plays since day one. He has been a great addition to our football team and has really helped solidify the secondary. Even Joe Coles of the Deseret News said that Johnson had an athletic goal line interception that was really impressive, that he grabbed a leaping grab that got the defense fired up, and there was also a nice play made later on by Dorian Singer that we can talk about later. But the biggest thing is just knowing, like Johnson. I mean, you lost Miles Battle and JT Broughton last year. Those guys were not lockdown corners, but they were key starters in your secondary who helped this defense still reach elite levels. How are you going to replace that? Seems like Johnson's going to be a really seamless fit and has the potential to exceed what those guys did too.
Yeah, and you think back to last season, Coach Whit never really went out of his way to give props to JT Broughton nor Miles Battle. I mean, he complimented them when it was due, but I don't really think that he felt really comfortable with the secondary that he had, despite they played well and had their moments, but it wasn't like Whit week in, week out was giving props to them. Whereas it's good to see Keenan Johnson and also Cameron Calhoun, the Michigan transfer. He made some nice plays as well. So it's good to hear both of their names mentioned. And when you have depth in the cornerback room, it's fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit different now with Utah in the Big 12, whereas last season in the Pac-12, you had so many explosive offenses. I mean, it was pretty much like playing an NFL wide receiving corps week in and week out, depending on what your schedule looked like. But there were some really potent offenses in last year's Pac-12 with some extremely good receivers. The Big 12 isn't quite up to that, but I mean, it's still important for Utah to build depth at those cornerback positions. And you also take into account the fact that Zamiah Vaughn is bringing back pretty much 3 years of starting experience, 2 years of starting experience at the very least. Plus, he's kind of seeing a down step or a downgrade in the level of competition he's facing. Whereas in the Pac-12, you had Romo Dunes, Troy Franklin, just a plethora of elite playmakers. Whereas in the Big 12, it's a little bit less. So I think that this Utah secondary is going to be really well equipped to handle this season.
They are going to be really cool equipped. They've been tested. I mean, to your point, Bo Nix and Michael Penix, both going to be probably top 50. Maybe one of them falls a little farther than that. There's all kind of crazy reports out there. Caleb Williams will be the first overall pick. Shedeur Sanders has a really good shot to be the first overall pick in next year's draft too. This is a group that also played Cam Ward just 2 years ago. We know that he's got NFL potential, but he's going to Miami this year. So much that this secondary has been experienced and tested will prepare them for the challenges of the upcoming season. And this secondary, we're starting to get a little bit of a feel for who the potential guys could be. At least that's what Kyle Whittingham told us, who the starters would be today. Want to react to that statement made by Coach Whit in one moment. But first, want to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes in our friends at Better Together. Better Together is a fast, cooperative daily fantasy application. Better Together. They offer a familiar experience for existing daily fantasy sports player with a social twist. You can play with your friends online. You can create that shared experience. Splitting a contest entry gives you that feeling of being connected even when you're apart. Betters your chances winning. 2 is always better than 1, 2, and it just really makes you realize that daily fantasy sports, sure, it's still fun alone, but like a lot of things, it's better when you're doing it together with a friend. You can put your group chats to the test and prove yours is the best. Provide a sense of community, meetings, and working together with fellow fans of your favorite teams. Gives you experienced players. It gives experienced players an immersive way to learn about daily fantasy sports, teaming up with and following the lead of experienced friends and teammates and contests. Is your bracket already busted? Tired of the same old daily fantasy sports grind? That's where you make a roster, cross your fingers, and hope for the best, or losing on the last leg of your pick'em entry. Introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy sports platform where teamwork triumphs talent and you can play with your friends, not against them. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up and use promo code Locked On for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember that code Locked On, all caps, no spaces, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes today. Our friends at Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's the opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created a Fire TV channel to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us on Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the in-game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and so much more. Not to mention all the great news channels, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos there too. You can check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this one. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedon Fire TV. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes today, our friends at UCCU. Here's some exciting news. UCCU has just elevated their checking accounts by enhancing them with more benefits, more savings, and more online protections than ever before. A lot more paired with the most advanced and comprehensive mobile banking tools. Elevated checking is a must-have financial product packed with lifestyle security and financial benefits. The lifestyle benefits alone include cell phone protections, roadside assistance, telehealth with 24/7 access to licensed health professionals with zero copay, and exclusive savings on travel, shopping, and dining. And elevated checking is free when you do any one of the following: use your debit or credit card 15 times or more a month, or make a monthly direct deposit of $500 or more and maintain an average daily balance of $1,500. Otherwise, UCCU elevated checking is only $6 a month. You can visit uccu.com to open an elevated checking account online or stop by any branch to open an account. UCCU, love where you bank. Dante, Coach Witt is seldom in giving us information on who his starters could be, but he asked who he thinks the secondary would be at this moment and said it would be Zamiah Vaughn, not surprising, on the outside, and also Keenan Johnson to go along with him, plus Smith Snowden. Maybe not the biggest surprise, but still interesting to hear Coach Witt actually say that. Then he said it would be Teo Johnson in the safety spot, which we know Teo's been doing well too, but Gilman, Hall, Ritchie, all those guys have been playing the safety position longer, even though he got some run there last year. He was also playing some corner too, so I thought it was interesting that Teo's the guy who's already a definite safety starter, and then it's Gilman, Ritchie, and Hall battling for the other spot. Coach Witt even said it's a great problem to have. What is your reaction to that group of starters? Because I think it's a really good group, but I'm just surprised that he named them as starters this early.
I think it's a great group, and I'm really happy he named the starters this early, because that means they've already separated themselves from the rest of the pack and have solidified themselves as deserving of a starting position. So I couldn't be happier, and I think it's a pretty solid all-around group. You have a good mix of experience, depth, and speed and size. Zamiah Vaughn is a perfect encapsulation of all that, with multiple years of starting experience, great speed, and great size. And then you take a look at the other side. I like how he named two guys, Keenan Johnson and Smith Snowden, because they still have to kind of battle it out and separate them from one and the other. And I would like to see how they kind of progress throughout the first few weeks of the season, because then you see who's making plays early on and who's kind of just bonding better with the group, and make a decision from there. But I like the two guys on the outside as well. Smith Snowden was a really highly touted recruit, sat a year, kind of sat a year, I guess, but didn't really get a whole lot of playing time last season. But it's going to be interesting to see how he plays early on, because that younger corners are more prone to make some larger errors, but they're also going to make more risky plays, and also that's more beneficial at times. So his progression is going to be interesting to keep an eye on. And then for the safety spots, you mentioned Hall, Ritchie, Gilman, and Teo Johnson. I mean, that's a fantastic group, just all in all. You have some different profiles there and a lot of depth. And I like seeing Teo Johnson winning that starting spot. I thought he made some fantastic plays last season. Obviously, it wasn't all around perfect, but there's going to be growing pains for a younger player. So I think it's going to be better for him to make that transition to safety, because his downhill speed is fantastic, and his ability to play man-to-man coverage and just read a quarterback's eyes got better by playing slot corner last season. So I think when you take into account all the different things he brings to the table, safety is going to be a good position for him.
I think it will be as well. I'm excited to see the secondary. It's a lot of unknown, but I think they got tremendous upside. And As we've said several times on this show, I'm not betting against a Utah group of secondary, especially one that continues to be led by Sharif Shaw and Morgan Scally. One thing that also seems to be really encouraging for Utah is that Brandon Rose seems to really be coming on strong. As Fan Nation All Utes reported today that Brandon Rose was coming along really well, according to Coach Whittingham and Mekhi Bernard. And Dante, the backup quarterback spot is obviously very important for every team, especially for Utah with some of Cam Rising's injuries. And I've said this before, Brandon being close to where Bryson Barnes was last year, I thought was a really good sign. Bryson was a little bit better. I think even if it wasn't for the injury, I think they would have given it to Bryson. But Brandon was right there. He's had all offseason to get better, took another year of sitting back and learning. I think he's ready to be the backup quarterback. I think had Bryson stayed, I do think Brandon would have gotten better and beaten him out too. And I think Brandon Rose is going to be a really good backup that can do what Bryson Barnes did, right? Bryson Barnes is a guy who came in and could still win this team games. I don't expect Brandon Rose to come in here and, like, if Utah has to play at Oklahoma State, right, which they do, like, I don't expect Brandon Rose, if Cam doesn't play in that game, to put the team on his back and win that game. I don't think that's being fair to Brandon. But if you're telling me we need Brandon to win a game where he has to be a game manager versus at Oklahoma State, Cam's going to have to be the guy who makes plays, I think Brandon Rose can do that. So I really am encouraged to hear not just that Coach Witt likes what he's seen at him, but one of the guys on the team, Mekhi Bernard, is also really encouraged by his progress.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's doubting Brandon Rose's knowledge of the offense at this point in time, simply because of his years of prior experience. And he's been able to sit behind quarterbacks and analyze what it takes to succeed at this level and what it takes to not succeed at this level. So he's had a lot of time to learn and grow within this program, and now it's kind of his time to shine. And as you alluded to, the backup quarterback position is going to be very pivotal for Utah this season because of the prior injuries to Cam Rising. As unfortunate as that is, that's just the reality of the situation. And being able to name a backup quarterback and being able to say good things about said backup quarterback is an extremely encouraging sign, because last season, the quarterback position for Utah was just never in certainty. There was always a question mark next to it. You never really knew what was going to happen. So simply having some sort of knowledge and sense of self for your players is really beneficial for Utah, because you're going to know you have a reliable option if Cameron Rising were to go down. And yeah, I mean, it's even better to see Mekhi Bernard saying positive things about him. No complaints there, obviously. And the progression for Brandon Rose seems to be pointing in all the right directions. And they said his timing has been really good, which is good to see, because you're not really sure how he's been able to gel with the receivers because of, I mean, he just hasn't had a lot of time with them with the injury last season and whatnot. You know, he was more so sitting back and learning, whereas now it's more so getting in action and getting a feel for the game. And it's good to see him coming along in those aspects.
Definitely is. Even Mekhi mentioned that Brandon Rose is a quote from the Utah Athletics website. Brandon Rose is more confident this year. Mekhi said he can really see it in him. He's gotten the playbook and he's really coming along. He's making fast decisions, has a nice arm, and it looks good. And Mekhi even mentioned Isaac Wilson. Feels like he's making good progress, has that nice arm, and, you know, still learning things, and he's going to get there, but feels like he's in an encouraging spot as well, too. One thing Mekhi also mentioned is talk about some of the young guys in the locker room. This is a Utah backfield that is loaded with talent. Even Jalen Glover was asked today who are the fastest guys on the team. This comes to us from Fan Nation All Utes, and he said DeJon Stanley and John Randall are the two fastest guys, so you're going to be excited to see the ball get in those guys' hands, which I hope Utah continues to scheme up ways to do so. Also, another interesting thing that I just feel like is crazy, Mekhi Bernard mentioned that, you know, when it comes to those young guys' development, obviously Mekhi is one of the leaders in the room. How about Jalen Glover is also one of the guys who's helping him along? It wasn't that long ago that Jalen Glover was the freshman coming in, and now he's already become a mentor. So it's crazy how quickly time can fly with these guys a little bit too. But there's so many exciting things going on with this Utah football program right now. Dante, what's been one of the big things for spring ball that's really caught your eyes, whether from the recent reports or maybe some of the stuff we saw last week?
I think it's the emergence, or well, I guess reemergence of Dorian Singer. You know, this was a guy who was over 1,000 yards at Arizona 2 years ago. I mean, he made some fantastic plays. If you go back and watch his tape from that season, the game against USC, I mean, he was just balling, and it was a big get for Utah in recruiting, obviously, but there were some question marks because he never really was in that same form at USC. You know, there was always a little bit something lacking. Maybe it was the fact that USC was pretty loaded at the receiver position. It was hard to get playing time. He just wasn't the guy anymore. The transfer thing, obviously, it's hard to change environments. Maybe just didn't get along with Caleb Williams. There could be a plethora of things, but to see the Utah coaches go out of their way to praise Dorian Singer and talk about how well he's progressed and how well he has gotten along and how much he has stood out at practice. It's fantastic to see early on because you already know what his potential is. And then you put him on an offense where there's so many different weapons. Maybe he's not going to get 1,000 yards, but when defenses are keying in on one player, it's just going to open up more opportunities for another. And Utah's really lacked that ex-alpha receiver over the past few years. And for them to finally get one locked in and progressing well already is fantastic to see, because the last time Utah got a big wide receiver from the transfer portal, like an already proven wide receiver from the transfer portal, it was Darren Carrington back in 2017. But he kind of got there late. Like he didn't play spring ball, I don't believe. He got there really late, and he played extremely well for Utah. I mean, he got really close to 1,000 yards, but he was playing really well early on, and that was without a lot of experience with the guys. So for Utah to lock down this one and have him playing with the group early on and getting along with them and progressing well, it's really encouraging to see. So I'm just stoked to see Dorian Singer play this fall.
We all are. He's one of the breakout stars of spring ball, and can't wait to see what he continues to do. Spring game, too. We're closing in on that very, very soon. I'm actually going to have Mike Lagerschultz of the Utah Crimson Club on tomorrow's show, where we talk about some of the things with the spring game for you guys to know about, the 22 Forever game, that are really exciting. So make sure you guys stay out on the lookout for that episode. But before we get out of here today, do want to talk about the Utah women's basketball team season coming to a close, as they did fall to Gonzaga 77-66. We'll be diving into what was another incredible season for the women's basketball team in one moment. But first, want to talk to you about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. Let's talk about the NC State Wolfpack, for example, or obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. The team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in their first two games in the tournament. Wins over Texas Tech and Oklahoma have set them up to play Marquette in the Sweet 16. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Golden Grizzlies have done here. And for NC State, it's going to be fun to see what they can do against Marquette. So make sure you guys take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Dante, closing this one out, let's talk about Utah women's basketball season unfortunately coming to a close against the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Credit the Bulldogs for getting it done. Utah actually led 23-17 after the first quarter, but then the second quarter, Utah actually had a slow second quarter against South Dakota State too. Didn't cost them. It did this time around. They got outscored 24-8 in the second quarter, and Utah just couldn't muster it the rest of the way. Alyssa Peely was fantastic in what was her final game as the Ute, 35 points, 7 of 7 from the free throw line, 4 of 7 from 3, 12 of 20 from the field. Mentioned the 7 boards too. Just stuff in the stat sheet like she always does too. An assist, a steal, a block, and only 1 turnover too. Jenna Johnson didn't turn it over. Outside of that, Alyssa Peely was second on the starters in terms of least amount of turnovers. Just incredible stuff there. Deja Young also tremendous, 11 points for her. Kennedy McQueen had 12, but just a tough one to see Utah go out. We always knew that it was going to be hard to accomplish the goals they'd set out to with no Gianna Neepkins, and that did definitely prove to be the case as Utah fell to the Bulldogs in this one. Utah didn't make as many threes as Gonzaga. Also didn't get to the free throw line. Bulldogs got there 17 times or 22 times, made 17 of them. Utah perfect 9 for 9, but only got there those 9 times. Also, Zags out rebounded Utah 37-31. So another incredible season for Lynn Roberts and her team and program. A disappointing that they just didn't have Gianna Neepkins, and they weren't at full strength too. Palmer missing the tournament and a lot of the season too. This team at full strength, maybe they could have done things special in March, but credit the Zags. Shout out former Ute Brenna Maxwell, who's going to be going on in March Madness. If I'm going to lose, I at least want it to be to a player who I used to root for in a Brenna Maxwell, who's made some big plays and had some big moments inside the Huntsman or throughout her career.
Yeah, and Gonzaga is a respectable opponent to lose to by all means because
They hosted.
it wasn't a home game. Wait, it was a home game for them?
It was, yeah. They got to host in the tournament, yeah, because they
Okay,
were
maybe that's
top
why I
four
saw that
seeds
stat
for the
because
women's tournament host. Yeah,
they've won 35, now 36 straight home games, which is just absurd. So obviously not the worst opponent to lose to
no,
in Gonzaga. And as you said, I mean, at full strength, I think this team definitely could have made a run. And you take into account the conference they played in. I mean, they were the definition of battle tested. Like the Pac-12 was top heavy, but Utah was a part of that top, and it was just a plethora of elite basketball teams. You know, it was like Colorado, USC, UCLA, Stanford, Utah, and Oregon State were all clear-cut top 25 teams, all teams that could easily make a run in March. So they were battle tested and at full strength. I think you're totally right. They could have done something special, especially with a player like Alyssa Peely at the forefront. You know, 35 points in her final game is truly special and really reflects her time at Utah. So, yeah.
Yeah, tough to see the women's team season come to a close. Men's team will have an opportunity to extend theirs tonight against VCU. We'll be breaking that down coming up on Friday's show. As I mentioned, tomorrow, the spring game, a little over 2 weeks out from that, previewing it with Mike Lagerschultz. So a lot going on this week on Locked On Utes. But if you guys want more information on spring camp, Dante, where should everyone head over to?
UteZone.com. Steve posted a fantastic article earlier today, gave the inside scoop on what went down at spring ball during the portion of practice that he got to saw. There's going to be more stuff like that throughout the entirety of spring ball. Throughout summer, we'll have some good articles and whatnot. Always great content on UteZone. So yeah, check it out for everything you need about Utah athletics.
Dante, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you, JT.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. Stay with us throughout the rest of the week. A lot more content coming up, and we look forward to seeing you all then.